Hello and welcome to my review of the best unit in the entire game system, the Eldar Warwalker. This model separately will cost you £18.50. If you get the Start Collecting box set for £50, you're pretty much getting it free. We've already established that. Maths Cat has done her maths and she found out that you only have to get the Wraith Lord and the Wraith Guard in the set and you've made the money's worth in the Start Collecting box. It went together quite easily. I'd say easier than the Wraith Lord. The Wraith Lord is probably the hardest model in that set to build. The only thing with this is you get this funky like cockpit shield thing, which I still think is just, well, it's Games Workshop making use of sort of existing parts really, isn't it? But instead of making new ones for the model, but I would have liked a different canopy, you know, because it's pretty much open topped, really. Not really much sort of support for the little Eldar inside. And I think the top of his head isn't even protected, look. Just the tip, that's all you need. A Ranger or Scout, get a, you know, just a clip off his top of his brain there, and then he's done. But anyway, apart from sort of the physics aside from this model, I think it's a good looking model. I remember the old metal ones and they were atrocious, a bit like the Sentinels really, but I'm pleased that they did them in plastic. However, I think this model is actually 11 years old now. I'm sure in my unboxing I said 2006, so it's getting on a bit. It's great that you get the Wraith Lord in the set, and that is a must. Whoever thought of that, hats off to you, because I'll show you the spare parts in a moment. And the great thing about it, you can use the cannons from the Wraith Lord on this and vice versa. So you're pretty much getting double of everything, so you can afford to equip both of the models with two of the same weapon if you really want to. Anyway, I've just posed this model sort of walking forward, about to sort of turn right, if that makes sense, with this star cannon sort of facing down and that one up or almost level. It's an interesting looking model. I'd like to see the poses that other people do with it, sort of running full pelt. I think it could cover quite a lot of ground with its inverted sort of more reverse knee joints. Very fast way of travelling. You only have to look at sort of ostriches to see how quick you can get with the reverse knee joint. But anyway, that is the Warwalker. What I'll do is I'll just show you some of the spare parts, then we'll look at the size comparisons. So spare parts, you don't really get many. Obviously you get another bright lance that I put on the Wraith Lord, but you get an extra camel toe. Then you get a little head. You can't see his pointy ears though, which is a shame. Then you get a shuriken cannon. I mean, I was going to equip it both with shuriken cannons because they're pretty good now. Or you can go full Dakar and have the scatter lasers or the odd looking missile launchers. So yeah, you don't get many parts at all. Not as many as the Wraith Lord, but there you go. Now I'll show you some size comparisons. So because I've got the Farseer from the set with me, he's here, and he does dwarf the Farseer. As you can see, he's a fair bit bigger. You get a lot of tall models in this set. The old Start Collecting set, you got the everything hovering, so all the jet bikes and the fire prism. And this set, everything's moving, but everything's so tall. Compare it to a Wraith Guard. Now I don't have an old Warwalker, so I can't do a comparison, unfortunately. But that's the Wraith Guard. And then finally the Wraith Lord, which is the tallest model in the set, is there. So hopefully that helps. I'll put a Space Marine to show you a comparison. So yeah, it's taller than Space Marine, and yeah, even taller than a Primaris. And now we're in part of the review where I'll talk to you about all the rules. So you'll find it in your brand new Codex Craft Worlds book. Unfortunately, it is in the heavy support section. It would have been nice if it was in the fast attack section, but there's a lot in the fast attack section, such as warp spiders, sweeping hawks, wind riders, vipers, and so on. But the heavy support is quite contested. You know, you've got your support weapons, your Wraith Lords, your Dark Reapers, your Falcons, your Fire Prisms, You know, there's a lot going on in all of the different areas in the Eldar Codex, really. But War Walkers, it contains one War Walker, and it can include an additional War Walker or 2 additional Walkers. So you can get 3 of them for 1 heavy support choice, which isn't too bad. Their power level is 4, so that's half of a Wraith Lord. And the thing is with a Wraith Lords are pretty good, but they try and sort of fulfill every role. They're not that fast, and they try and fulfill like a combat role and fire support, whereas this is mainly your fire support kind of role. So their movement, they're quite quick actually, 10 inches, their weapon skill, ballistic skill is 3+, which isn't too bad. Their strength 5, toughness 6, they've got 6 wounds, 2 attacks, leadership of 8 and a save of 4+. So they've got a high toughness with a toughness 6, and they've got 6 wounds. I mean, you have 3 of these, that's going to be 18 wounds that you've got, and a save of 4+ isn't too bad. Now each model is equipped with 2 shuriken cannons, but you can replace the shuriken cannon with an item from the heavy weapons list. So that includes the missile launchers, the bright lances, the star cannons, the scatter lasers, and so on. If you want to go down the shuriken cannon route, the range is 24 inches, assault 3, strength 6, damage 1, and each time you roll a 6, you get an AP of -3. So that's not too bad. You have 2 shuriken cannons, you've got an effective range there of 34 inches. They can cover a fair bit of ground. You know, 6 shots, if you have 3 of them, you've got 18 shots there. I'd say you've got a good chance of getting a few 6s. So keeping away from like the Space Marine equivalents and things, with 3 of them, firing those 18 shots, you've got a good chance of knocking out their armour saves. Their abilities, got Ancient Doom and Battle Focus. I've spoken about them in other videos. So they've got Scout Vehicle. During deployment, you can set this unit up on the enemy's flanks instead of placing it on the battlefield. At the end of any of your movement phases, the unit can then join the battle, and you set it up so that all models in the unit are within 3 inches of a battlefield edge, and more than 9 inches away from enemy models. So they're pretty much deep striking, but on, you know, from table edges. Also, it has an invulnerable save, something the Wraith Lord doesn't have. It has a 5+ invulnerable save. And then if you bump that up with a Farseer or something like that, that's going to get even better. So they've got a 4+ normal, 5+ invulnerable, they've got the toughness 6 and wounds 6. They're quite survivable. You know, a Wraith Lord has got a 1 better save of 3+, but it doesn't have that invulnerable save, and its toughness is only 2 higher. So one could argue they are a little bit more survivable than a Wraith Lord, even though Wraith Lord does have the 10 wounds. And let's be honest here, you can get 2 War Walkers for the same cost as 1 Wraith Lord, which pretty much means that you've got 12 wounds there, you've got the same number of attacks, and you've got a higher movement speed that isn't affected by its damage. You know, that Wraith Lord, when it starts taking damage, it's going to be harder to hit in combat and for shooting, whereas both of your War Walkers, they're not going to be affected by that. It can also explode, a bit like a vehicle then. If it's reduced to 0 wounds, you roll a d6, and on a 6 it explodes, and everything within 3 inches suffers 1 mortal wound. So you've got that too. I wouldn't be running them into assault. Although their weapon skill is 3+, and they've got 2 attacks, their strength is only 5, they don't get any extra attacks or strength of attack from their feet or their hooves. That would have been cool. Or they can kick, a little bit like the units in Metal Gear Solid. Forgotten their name, but that would be awesome, but they don't. So they are mainly fire support, keeping that range of 24 or even 36 inches. Even if you had 3 of them as dedicated anti-tank, 6 Bright Lance shots at 36 inches. Their effective range is basically 46 inches. Them just hopping about the board, firing those weapons, will be quite damaging to the enemy. And that's all I really want to say about the War Walkers. Fantastic units, very underrated, I think. Competitively, I think they do quite well. But I want to hear your thoughts. Please put it in the comments below how best you use them, what's your best tactics and strategies and things. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor Protects.